Thank you for joining us for this session of the Trine Family Web Series. We will begin in just a moment as we allow for folks to make their way into the webinar from the waiting room. As folks are joining us, just a quick reminder that this session is being recorded. During today's session, please feel free to utilize the question and answer feature located at the bottom of your screen. Not only will we be having a live Q&A with our presenters this evening, but we will also have staff on the back end who will be helping out answering questions offline. So at any point that you may have a question during today's session, please feel free to utilize the question and answer feature. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thank you all for joining us from wherever you may be to attend this session of the Trine Family Web Series. We are so appreciative that you are taking the time out of your day to support your student success here at UC San Diego, particularly joining us for a session all focused on your students' wellness. Today's session, Finding Connection, Combating Loneliness and Isolation, is done in partnership with our colleagues over at the Counseling and Psychological Services Department. And without further ado, I would love to introduce our two presenters today, starting with Dr. Tiffany O'Meara.
Hello, welcome parents and families. My name is Dr. Tiffany O'Meara. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the Director of Outreach Services at Counseling and Psychological Services, and I'm here today with my colleague, Dr. AJ Pollard. AJ, would you like to say a little something about yourself?
Hi there, I'm Dr. AJ Pollard, she, her pronouns, and I'm here with CAPS as a postdoctoral resident.
So today we're going to be talking with you about the student experience of feeling lonely and disconnected and some of the resources and strategies that you can share with your student that might help support them through that difficult time and help them to find connection and a sense of belonging here at UC San Diego. So we're going to start off by acknowledging our current social context that our students are experiencing and how this might contribute to a sense of loneliness and disconnection. Next, we'll discuss 3 different case examples and share resources, coping strategies, and tips on how to support a loved one. And finally, we'll make time for questions and conversation. But first, we'd like to get an idea of who is in the audience. So we're going to start with a poll asking you, where are you from? And so you can vote in the poll where you're from, what general area that you're from, but then would love to also, if folks would like sharing in the chat as well, where they're from. New Mexico, Shanghai, wow. Hong Kong, India, wow. Portland, San Francisco, Northridge, nice. New York, Riverside, Texas. Wow, so we've got, so far, I don't see anyone local in San Diego. I see people in Northern Cal, out of state, out of country. Okay, there we go. Someone from San Diego. Wonderful. San Jose, wonderful. Wow, that's great. Well, welcome. Let's see those poll results. I'm so curious. Let's see here. So let's see. I hope everyone can see these poll results. It looks like number one is Northern California. We always joke in student orientation program that we have the most students from Northern Cal, and I think that's because the students get to still stay in the UC system within state, but get to be far away from home. So we always have a lot of Northern Cal represented. That's great. Central California. All right. So, and then quite a lot of you are from out of state and also international. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
So before we talk about the struggles that students are having with loneliness, it's important to recognize the social context that we are living in. Students are going through a really big transition in starting college and maybe either living at home with family still or moving away for the first time. And as we see, there's quite a few areas that you're coming from. So that is already a really big transition, and you're adjusting to the academic rigor and UCSD's quarter system, which can be really intense itself. But it's not just school and academics that are impacting our stress levels. And there are a lot of sociopolitical stressors, including a global conflict, race-based violence, xenophobia, injustice and systemic oppression, elections. And sometimes it feels like there's something new just coming up terrible every single week. It feels relentless. So we do want to acknowledge and take a moment to recognize the real impact that it does have on us. So to give you an idea of what resources are available, we wanted to provide some case examples. And so here we have Sam, who is a first-year student at UC San Diego and lives on campus, and it is their first time away from home. The college experience has been challenging, particularly in connecting with peers to meet and study with. Sam is not familiar with UC San Diego resources and wonders where to start to make the connections. So, like I already mentioned, going away from college and leaving family home for the first time can be a scary experience for any student. But even though we are no longer in a pandemic, we are still dealing with the fallout after it, because students are still adjusting to their new life after dealing with with distance learning for so long. Because not only did many of the students not even get a high school graduation walk, so that's already huge, but they didn't even get to socialize properly throughout the entire time. So now, as students are trying to adjust to the new college life, they're also at the same time trying to figure out their way back into a healthy social life after being in the pandemic for so long. So there are a number of resources on campus that are making efforts to help students meet and connect and develop friendships. And so we would like to share some of these resources that you might not already be familiar with. So first we have CAPS, the Counseling and Psychological Services. And although many students might hear about us during orientation and all these other events, many students often turn to their families first when they're stressed. And so it can be very helpful for parents and families to also know about these services, so that when your student reaches out, you know what services are available. So CAPS services are confidential, free for registered students, and include in-person and virtual appointments for brief individual therapy, counseling, and students can also be referred to off-campus services if they need services that go beyond our brief model. And we do also have psychiatry referrals for medication treatment. But another service that we also offer is group counseling, because some problems that we experience are better addressed when together in a group. So we have several groups that might be helpful, but there are two that are especially relevant here. So we have our Building Social Confidence group, which addresses social anxiety and effective social skills. And then we have our Building Social Skills group, which focuses on understanding, learning, and practicing social skills for young adults with autism. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So CAPS provides also our Triton's Flourish preventative programming, and these include skill building workshops, community building forums, and one-on-one, one-time consultations. Here we have our skill building workshops that are offered this quarter in the spring, and it's based on research from fields of performance and positive psychology, mind-body science, and with a focus on community building. And there is a workshop offered daily, so you can have a variety of things that you can attend, and they are drop-in basis, so you do not need to commit to the entire quarter. You can just show up once and never again, or a couple of times. And for example, we have our Triton's Rise with Outback series that can be a great way to build connections. At these series, students get to rock climb, hike, and do a leap of faith, all the while socializing and building mental health skills. And we do have two series, a general one and an LGBTQ+ community-centered one. Then here we have our community building forums for this quarter. And these spaces are for sharing identities, building a safe space to discuss unique issues for a particular group in a very supportive manner. And so students can build relationships, learn from each other, and participate in a meaningful, engaging conversations. And we have some identity-based forums like the Cafecito Hour, Black Connections, Trans and Gender Diverse Group. But we also have some forums for specific issues like ADHD, grief and loss, or athlete injury. And additionally, by attending any 12 of our RISE workshops or community forums within an academic year, students will be able to receive an official well-being certificate on their co-curricular record. So the CCR is an official record that highlights student achievements that go beyond the classroom experience. And these activities are officially validated by the university, and it gets displayed alongside your student academic achievements. So just to clarify, it only shows up that you completed the certificate, but it doesn't show exactly which activities you participated in. So your privacy is still protected, especially if you're attending forums or workshops that have something to do with an internal identity that you don't want to share. So this is a really great opportunity to not only build skills and build connections, but also showcase the commitment that you have made to development and self-growth.
There are also a lot of great resources throughout campus. So these are some of the departments across campus that are providing opportunities to help students to meet, connect, create friendships, and be part of a community. So the first that I want to discuss is the campus community centers, and we show you here on the screen logos from our campus community centers. So for example, the Black Resource Center, the LGBT Resource Center are just examples of a couple of campus community centers that build affinity among diverse populations of students. And so those are great spaces for students to go visit and find community. We also have at each of the 8 colleges, they each have their own college newsletter that they'll send out. And these are great for students at colleges to be informed about what are college events and how to get connected within their college. Social media is also a great resource to stay connected to what is happening at your college. We also have CSI here at UCSD. CSI stands for Center for Student Involvement. And so AJ is going to put the link for CSI into the chat. And this web page includes information of many of the ways that students can find connection, including an iLead leadership program, sorority and fraternity life, which there are lots of different types of sororities and fraternities. There's academic, pre-professional, cultural, social, and service-based fraternities, as well as a listing of student organizations. So we have over 500 student orgs, and students can browse for their areas of interest on this website. And we have so many incredible student organizations if students want to get involved. I had a student that I went through the list and they looked at the list and they said, oh, there's a cheese club. There's a club for people that like cheese. And so they were thinking of going to the cheese club. So there's so many different organizations. And we teach students in our therapy groups to search for people with whom you share common interests. So this is a great web page to go to try to find people that share similar interests and passions as you. We also have our student union and our events calendar. So this is a great place for students to visit regularly to find out what events are going on. Many of the events are free for students to go and visit and be part of community. I also want to let you know about peer educator programs. I really believe in peer educator programs because I used to run one for about 15 years. They're really a great way for students to meet other students who share similar interests, values, and passions, and you work together towards a common goal. You feel like you're a valuable member of a team, and you get the opportunity to be part of a community, and this has been a great way for students to make friends. Our Student Health Wellbeing Cluster has 2 peer educator programs. We have the CAPS Rise Ambassadors, and then we have our Health Promotion Services has the Wellbeing Peer Educator Program. But there's many peer educator programs at UCSD, including Academic Integrity Peer Educators, Career Center Peer Educators, Basic Needs, LGBT Social Justice Peer Educators, and Teaching and Learning Commons peer educators are just some examples of different peer ed programs that we have. I love recreation. I always like to talk about recreation. I have many friends that work at recreation and they offer incredible programs. They have intramural sports that, you know, if you're an athlete, that's great because they do have things like basketball, but they also have beach volleyball, inner tube water polo, kickball, and so much more. So you don't have to be a big talented athlete to join intramural sports. They also offer something called the RAP, which is the Recreation Activity Pass. And this is free for students and offers free activity classes such as rock climbing, surfing, and aerial silks. I have a couple of my students that I'm working with right now who are struggling with loneliness. And one of them joined a tennis class and one joined a swimming class. They don't have to have any previous experience with those activities. They have beginner classes, and it's a great way to meet other students as well. The Outback Adventure team also has a lot of activities that students can sign up for, including an outdoor challenge course, a climbing center, and a lot of outdoor trips. And these are great ways to get active and also provide students a way to meet and interact with other students in a setting that is more casual and fun. And then finally, want to let you know about the Zone. So we'll share the Zone link as well. The Zone offers kind of bite-sized well-being programming where it's a small little space on campus next to Jamba Juice where students can go to well-being programming, and it's a great way to connect with other students. So this is just an example of the student events calendar. There's a QR code there if you'd like to check out the student events calendar. All right, so now that we've learned a little bit more about resources available to students at UCSD, I'd like to hear from you. What is one resource that we discussed that you might be interested in recommending to your student? As folks are voting, I'll tell you, we have one large RISE event every quarter. Last in the fall, we did something at the Birch Aquarium where we held a big, gigantic yoga class overlooking the sunset on the ocean. And again, that's free for students. And that was an incredible program. This quarter coming up, we're going to be offering something called Surf and Flow, where students can go to the beach, get free surf classes, and also be able to participate in a free yoga class. Again, no experience necessary, but some really great programs that we offer. All right, shall we take a look at those results? Oh, pretty evenly spread out here. It looks like recreation. Yes, I love recreation. It's a great way to do something fun while also getting an opportunity to meet folks. So I love that. And then great, it also looks like CSI clubs and then the RISE workshops coming in third there. Great, but I'm so happy everybody found something there on that list that they might recommend. So that's wonderful to hear. All right, so our next example, oh, sorry, AJ, that's you.
Thank you. So next we have another case example. We have here Laura, who is a first-year transfer student, lives on campus, and is homesick. Home is out of state, and she misses her friends and family back home. Laura is wondering how she can improve her mood, cope with her loneliness, and find ways to make new friends. So while she's living on campus, the campus experience might be feeling a little bit different than what she's expecting and is having a hard time connecting with other students. So in addition to the resources that we shared earlier with Sam, there are a number of tips and strategies that Laura can use to help support her own emotional well-being during this time. And while some of the suggestions we will share may seem like common sense, research has actually found that common sense does not always mean common action. So we want to be mindful about actually acting on these things. And there are no secrets to managing stress and loneliness, but the hard part is making these a regular part of one's routine. So again, it's the common action that we want to point out, actually getting started on these. So here are some tips for college students who are feeling lonely. First, we want to make sure that you normalize your own feelings. Know that it is absolutely okay to feel how you are feeling. And many students are actually having difficulty finding community on campus. And it's not something that has anything to do with them personally. It's just a difficult thing to do in general. And you are not alone in feeling this. Then we want to make sure that you develop and maintain a routine that provides balance and familiarity. So create a plan that includes physical activity, connecting with loved ones, or even adding something relaxing or a hobby or a project that you enjoy. And we have a few handouts that can be helpful with that. So Tiffany is going to share some links. And so take some time out of the day for yourself to do something you enjoy. Add positive experience into your day, in addition to the things that we are experiencing with stress. And maybe consider minimizing some of the stressful things, like maybe viewing the news a little bit less frequently if it is especially stressful. And then next, we want to make sure that you practice good sleep hygiene. Sleep is so important to get rest and to be able to actually function and think and interact with other people. So we have some more handouts that can be helpful with that as well. And a very important piece is that when we build connections, we want to be intentional about building meaningful connections, because it's easy to use technology, which can be helpful, but it isn't a perfect source for socializing. So social media, for example, has been linked to feeling more lonely. So connect in a way that works best for you, whether it's texting, video chatting, phone calls, using apps, but just make an intentional effort to reach out, to be supportive, to communicate effectively, and not just sharing small talk. And so we have some more handouts that can be helpful with this. And then finally, focus on what you can change, because spending time just fixating and dwelling on our stress can magnify that feeling, and it can perpetuate that sense of loneliness. But change doesn't happen overnight, and building deep connections does take time. So it's important to be patient and take it one step at a time. So instead, focus your attention on something that you can control and work at it. So that could mean sharing your appreciation towards friends, family, strangers, or even adding a gratitude exercise to practice thinking positively about your day.
Right. There were so many links to share in the chat, so I was running a little behind. All right, here we go. So the next case example is Yoshi. So Yoshi is a first-year international student and lives off campus. They call their parents and talk about how they miss being away from home and are struggling with the adjustment to the university and US culture. When talking with their parents, they sometimes cry and talk about how lonely they feel. Yoshi's parents are feeling helpless and don't know how to best support them. So in this case example, Yoshi has a great support system, but they're just physically not near them. So the good news is that they can still provide emotional support no matter how far away they are. And there are a few things that we can do specifically as a student support system, no matter where we're living. All right, so next slide. In addition to the resources that we talked about with Sam and Laura, we would like to provide some tips on how to support a loved one who is feeling lonely. So the first tip is to simply be there to listen to your student. They may just need space to talk and vent and feel heard. A lot of times students call their family, call their parents and cry and are really upset. But then when you get off the phone, the parent now is really worried and the student's feeling a lot better and they're off with their friends at Taco Bell. And so sometimes, I find it helpful to say, what do you need from me right now? What would be most helpful? Would you like some ideas or things to problem solve, or would you just like me to listen to you right now? And sometimes what they want is just for you to listen. Also consider contacting them in a mode and frequency that the student desires. So ask them how they would like to stay connected and allow them to pace the contact as well as the type of communication. Do they prefer Zoom, phone calls, emails, text? So just keeping in mind, what works the best for the student. So it might not feel good for the student to be reaching out to them on a daily basis unless the student wants that. So every student is different, so follow their lead. I find that if it's possible, it can help to send a letter in the mail or a care package if you're able to, especially if there's snacks from home that they're not able to get here in San Diego. Maybe enough for them to share with their friends or their roommates. Sending pictures of family, pictures of pets, keeping them updated in kind of the day-to-day news, I think can be helpful and help reduce their loneliness, keep up their sense of connection. Next is to be aware of the quarter system and the ebb and flow of exams. So sometimes when students are busier, they're not feeling as lonely because they just want the time to study. And so be aware the quarter system moves very quickly and there can be midterms that actually last throughout the entire quarter. So, be aware of that, especially if your student is living at home, because even though they're physically there, they might not have as much availability to engage with the family. And so we suggest that families practice patience as their students are trying to navigate university demands while living at home. And we've been giving examples of students who are reaching out to parents, but I also want to acknowledge that some students may not reach out, and it's not necessarily that they don't want to talk to you. they just may have a lot going on. For some students, they may, for the first time ever, be struggling academically, and it might be embarrassing or difficult to talk to you about that. Or maybe they don't want you to worry. And so that might be part of why, they're not reaching out. So, just want you to know that there could be many reasons why they're not reaching out. Next is assist the student in doing their own problem solving. So you can provide them resources, but without solving the problem for them. So really encourage them to, that you believe in their strengths to get through this difficult time. If they ask you what they should do, you can ask them, well, what are your thoughts about it? What do you think that you should do about this? What are some of your ideas or things that you've heard on campus? One resource in particular for international students is that we have an international student forum here at CAPS that's run through ISEO, which used to be called ISPO, is now ISEO, International Students and Engagement Office. So they meet outside, they have coffee and snacks, and they sit and talk and get to meet other international students and share similar challenges and experiences with other international students. And finally, practice self-compassion. So be kind, understanding, and patient, both with your child and also with yourself. And work on treating yourself and others with compassion. So not only providing support for your student, but also serving as an example so the student can learn to be kind, understanding, and patient with themselves and others. Being lonely is really hard, and it's natural to feel sad about that, and to have compassion for yourself when you're going through that. And it's not something that's going to last forever. Often it's something that is a period of time that they get through. But if they keep being intentional and trying out some of these strategies that we talk about and they don't give up, we often find that students at some point do find people to connect to, but it just might take some time. And then also for parents, I just want to encourage you to also be caring for yourself. Families have their own transition during this time. So some of you might be missing a first child that's off at college and your dynamics at home have changed. And for others, this might be your last child that's going off to college. So, consider engaging in personal hobbies or interests that maybe have been neglected due to parental demands. And instead of thinking of this time as an empty nest, you might think about this time as being a free bird. Both you and your child are experiencing new chapters in life, both independently and also together. So going on to our final poll, thinking of the strategies that we just shared, which of these do you think might be most helpful for your student or for you? All right, let's see those results. Maybe waiting for a few more folks to answer. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. It's pretty evenly spread. It looks like good sleep hygiene and finding ways for meaningful connection. Yeah, and sometimes I'll work with students that feel really sad and we get their sleep back on track, and just that alone really helps a lot. And then, of course, if you can find, research is really interesting. They found that for first-year students and for first-year transfer students, that the students that join a student org actually have better adjustment to campus. And they think it's because they're getting support. They're getting support while they're going through this transition. So finding ways to make meaningful connection, even if you have just one person on campus that you feel connected to, it can really change your experience. So you don't need a whole huge social group around you, but just even having one person can make a big difference. And yeah, and then assisting the students with their own problem solving. That's great. I love it. So we do have time for some questions here. So let's see. We do have a question that, thank you. The attendee is saying that all of the programs and groups are great, but the problem that they see is with professors and TAs, that a lot of the professors and TAs, there's a lot of pressure on students with grades and workload, and that they don't always see the same encouragement for well-being with professors. And so I'd also be curious to hear if AJ or Dan have thoughts on this, but I know that it depends. It differs. There are professors who are very engaged and interested in student well-being. Many professors will actually put the CAPS resources at the bottom of their syllabi for students, so that students can be connected to CAPS, and that many professors are really understanding. Some students are very shy, so they're afraid to talk to their professors, but I always encourage them to talk to their professors and their TAs if they're struggling or having a hard time, because professors, more often than not, I find, are willing to give accommodations to students that might be struggling. That being said, it is true. It's academically, it's very rigorous, and it's competitive, and it's hard. It's a hard adjustment. Yeah.
Yeah, Tiffany and AJ, I wonder if either of you could speak to which of the resources you may have mentioned today would be the best for a student to seek out if they need assistance in navigating an instructor or a TA who may be a little bit more resistant to accommodating their well-being or struggles.
That's a great question. One thing that comes to mind right away is the Office with Students with Disabilities, because if a student is struggling, not only with a physical disability, but also a mental health disability, that if they have a mental health condition, depression, anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks, anything that might be keeping them from being able to perform well academically, going to the Office of Students with Disabilities, OSD, they can assist with getting the student official accommodations, so that the professor honestly doesn't even have a choice. If they get accommodations, then the professor needs to give them accommodations. I'm also thinking about the student's dean is a great resource. The deans are amazing here for each of the 8 colleges, and the deans really want to see students succeed. If a student is struggling, maybe it's not something to do with a mental health condition. Maybe they've got a family member that's ill, or maybe they're struggling because they're having difficulty adjusting. The deans want to know about it. And so you can reach out to your college, you can talk with the dean, you can talk with an academic advisor at your college, and they will often be able to help. And if it really is struggling and hurting your academics, the deans will often even be willing to help reach out to the professors and help make that connection.
Thank you for that answer. Kind of around difficulties that students may be having, we have a question relating to the necessity for a student to take a quarter off due to a break, be it for mental health reasons, student wellness, or even physical injury or physical health. How or what services should families be aware of in terms of support for their student during the process?
So my understanding is that students are able to take a leave of absence at any time that they need to. I would again suggest reaching out to your college and reaching out to your dean and letting them know about what's going on and that you would like to take a leave of absence. And that I'm not exactly sure myself of what are the official procedures to doing that. But for certain, if they stop by their college and speak with their dean or an academic advisor, they would be able to help get them to the right place in order to take that leave of absence. But again, the university wants students to succeed. I've worked with many students that are experiencing a mental health condition and they've taken a leave of absence. They've gotten help for that. They've gotten treatment for that. And then they are able to come back and be much more successful with their academics.
Yes, and all students can take a quarter off and not register without having to reapply for admission. If your student may need longer, or there may be ongoing issues where your student may need accommodations, as Tiffany said, starting with your student's college advisor is the perfect place to go, because that would be, they'll be able to judge if there are other services like the Office for Students with Disabilities, or connecting, depending on what your student is, connecting them with their programmatic advising office and the dean of the school of the program that your student's major may be in, to ensure that your student's getting the accommodations that they need to continue to be successful here at UC San Diego. I know we've talked a lot today about on-demand resources and involvement opportunities and connections that students can seek out. But we do have a question just about, is there any sort of outreach that the university does to students checking in on their mental health and wellness? This family member is asking, or is it kind of all up on to the student's own to realize and recognize that they may be struggling?
If they live on campus, CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services, actually goes out at the beginning of every year and trains the RAs and the HAs, the resident assistants and the housing assistants, to identify when a student seems to be struggling. If a student seems to be withdrawn or lonely, not engaging as much as the other students. And those student staff are trained to be able to approach and reach out to that student. They get training on all variety of campus resources, many of which we talked about today, that the students can give peer-to-peer assistance, and then they can also refer to their resident dean, or they can refer to the counseling center if they have more serious concerns about that student. And then we don't necessarily reach out to the students, but we have a lot of outreach going on. So what I mean by that is that we have tables set up on Library Walk, or we have various programs where, we're handing out giveaways and freebies and trying to get students to engage with us. And then that's often how we'll share about our variety of services that we have. So I know that recreation, CAPS, health promotion services, case management services, that we make an effort to get out there a lot and try to let students know. We attend all of the various orientation programs and let students know about all of our services. They have different resource fairs that often go on, that students can walk and learn and go to table and learn about different resources.
And I will say, in part of you all attending this session and learning about these resources and ways that students can stay connected and find connection and find community on campus, you're becoming a resource for your student, because they're more likely to reach out to you or express to you that they're maybe feeling lonely or struggling and feeling isolated. So we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us today, because as we've mentioned, it may be difficult for students to sometimes realize when they're struggling or get the courage to go reach out, and they're more likely to come to you first. So we really do appreciate you taking the time. Tiffany and AJ, thank you so much. I know we were running up against the clock, but thank you again for sharing your expertise, the great resources and strategies for families in supporting their students' wellness and helping them find connection on campus. And folks, if we didn't get to your question today, please feel free to email us at parents@ucsc.edu, and our staff will be more than happy to answer those questions, or get you and your student connected with those resources, or get you connected with the folks over at CAPS, at Counseling and Psychological Services, so we can ensure that those questions and the needs of your students are being met. And I just want to let everyone know that if you would like to share this recording of the session once it's posted tomorrow with another family member, or if you'd like to rewatch it utilizing Translate subtitles, you can do so once this recording is up tomorrow on our YouTube channel. You can do that by following the directions on screen, selecting settings, subtitles, and auto translate to the preferred language. It's a way that YouTube can make this video accessible in multiple languages. And lastly, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us from all around the world to partake in this Trying Family Web Series session. Again, if you have any other questions or you'd like to follow up on this session, please email us at parents.ucs or parents@ucsd.edu. That's on the screen. Please visit our website, or you can give us a call at our helpline, which is also listed here. For all those that have registered for this session, you will not only receive an email tomorrow with a link to the recording, but you will receive a PDF version of this PowerPoint deck. So in case you missed a QR code or you missed some resources or you weren't taking notes fast enough, we'll be able to send that out so you can have that on demand as well. And that YouTube channel is listed on screen as well, /UCSD families. That will not only house this recording tomorrow, but it has all of our Trying Family Web Series sessions since we started this program back in 2020. So please feel free to view any of those sessions and you may see some familiar faces. Again, thank you so much, Tiffany and AJ, for joining us. Thank you all for attending this session and supporting your student success here at UC San Diego. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.